Japan's latest economic data? And what does that tell you of the progress in the current administration's plans to revive the economy?
Yeah, as you say, Kathy, quite a mixed bag of data. I mean, I think the key thing for me to focus on is the core CPI reading that we've got, because I think that really underlines the scale of the challenge facing the Bank of Japan and Abenomics more broadly. I mean, that stayed at negative 0.4 on a year-on-year basis in the latest month. And I think it just underlines how ingrained deflationary pressures are in the Japanese economy and how difficult they will be to reverse. And that there's a long road ahead before we can be confident that the Bank of Japan can get anything close to reaching its 2% inflation target over the next couple of years.
Is Abenomics unreasonable? Do you think the government needs to do more? And if so, what's next?
Well, I think that's right. I mean, I think the key for us is that Japan is a relatively closed economy, and the transmission mechanism from import prices and the exchange rate into the inflation basket is relatively damped. And equally as well, given those ingrained deflationary expectations, which I was just emphasizing, the transmission from the labor market, the unemployment rate to a pickup in inflation is pretty limited as well. So the main way it looks to us that the central bank can gain traction, can really shift inflation, is to really affect just a dramatic shift in inflationary psychology, really shock inflation expectations, get private sector agents believing that this is a significant aggressive regime shift, and that their 2% inflation target is achievable, and that the central bank will do everything required to do that. So I certainly think to affect that dramatic shift in psychology and in expectations, almost certainly Bank of Japan will have to do more. So we think that it'll probably be a further scaling up of its asset purchase program towards the end of the summer, maybe in early autumn, as the difficulty in pushing up those readings of core inflation becomes apparent.
Investors don't seem to like the extreme volatility in the markets for the past few months. Do you think the honeymoon is over?
Well, I think that's right. I think that this ties into the discussion we were just having on the challenges facing the Bank of Japan in successfully achieving its inflation target. I think that markets have begun to take a much more sober assessment of what Bank of Japan can realistically achieve in the timescale given. Fundamentally, as many investors have realized, and we at BNP Paribas have been pointing out, I mean, really at the heart of Abenomics, there is this unresolved paradox that the more successful Bank of Japan is in pushing up inflation rates, the more ultimate pressure there will be on bond yields, which then risks both a shock to the banking system and very much to the public finances through substantially higher debt interest costs. So that tension remains to be resolved within Abenomics, and so I think that is leading to this significant pickup in volatility in the government bond market, and that is beginning to unnerve some investors. I think how this circle is squared is through further measures to try to lift underlying real economic growth. So measures of liberalisation of the service sector, more aggressive liberalisation of the labour market, perhaps participation in the Trans-Pacific Free Trade Agreement, which could impart a significant competitive shock to the Japanese economy. All these are the type of structural reforms which I think Prime Minister Abe is keen to push to try to lift underlying growth, because if all Abenomics achieves is a pickup in inflation, that will just intensify the risk, I think, of particularly a meltdown in the public finances. So plenty of unresolved questions so far about Abenomics.